The fall of Babylon occurred in 539 BCE when the city was conquered by the Persian Empire under Cyrus the Great. After a long period of decline, marked by internal strife and economic troubles, Babylon found itself weakened. The Persians diverted the Euphrates River to lower its water level, allowing their troops to enter the city through its previously impenetrable walls. On the night of Belshazzar's feast, as depicted in the biblical book of Daniel, the conquest took place with little resistance. The fall marked a paradigm shift, leading to the incorporation of Babylon into the Persian Empire. Cyrus is noted for his relatively tolerant rule, allowing the Jews and other exiled peoples to return to their homelands, which fostered a legacy of cultural exchange and the eventual rise of the Achaemenid Empire. Babylon's fall symbolizes the transition from Babylonian to Persian dominance in the ancient Near East. We don't know what ended the Indus River civilization, but we do know that the arrival of Spanish conquistadors in South America marked the end of the Aztecs. The Aztecs were a civilization that existed from the 14th to the early 16th century in modern-day Mexico. The Aztecs cultivated maize, beans, pumpkins, and many other crops. However, animals were not held, with turkeys and dogs being the exception. Stable agricultural output allowed the cities to house many tradespeople like painters or goldsmiths. On the other hand, the Aztecs used their military to exert force over their neighbors. Men were also trained in war from a young age. The Aztecs also periodically fought against their neighbors in so-called flower wars, whose only goal was to capture enemy warriors, so they could be sacrificed to the gods. A reason why the Spaniards could defeat the Aztecs was that the neighboring nations allied themselves with the Spanish. However, the real downfall came with the arrival of European diseases that wiped out a majority of the Aztecs' population. Central America is now mostly known for unstable countries and immigrants that come to the US, but before the Spanish entered America, Central America housed the Maya civilization, which was very impressive even by today's standards. They pursued mathematics, had their own calendar, and wrote their own scripture. The manufacturing of wood, stone, ceramics, and textiles was highly developed, while metals like gold and silver were mostly made for ceremonial uses. They were also able to build impressive temples, palaces, and even observatories. Although the arrival of the Spanish gave the Maya civilization the final blow, many of its cities were already abandoned when the Spanish arrived. Nobody knows for certain what started the decline of the Maya civilization, but it is assumed to have happened during the 9th century. One theory is that the Maya population grew to a number that was too large to be fed. This resulted in an overcropping of their fields, which in turn led to fewer crop output and famine. Think about ancient Sparta as elite warriors that were trained in the art of war from a young age. While their society was far more militarized than other Greek city-states, the majority of their city's population consisted of slaves that did most of the labor and were called heliots. The Spartans themselves held all the power and made up the Spartan army. Spartan boys were taken from their families at the age of 7 and entered military training. They were organized in small groups that would train and live together. During this time, boys were intentionally given small rations, so they got used to hunger. At the same time, stealing food from heliots was seen as a good way to form them into soldiers. However, being caught resulted in harsh punishment. This was seen as preparation for being behind enemy lines. At the age of 20, men would join the army, and at 30, they were seen as full citizens. Sparta had a huge influence on the Greek mainland, but became more and more irrelevant until it became part of the Roman Empire in the 2nd century BC. Welcome to ancient Athens, one of the most influential city-states of Greece. In the 5th century BCE, Athens became a cultural and political hub, known for its pioneering system of democracy. Male citizens had the right to participate in decision-making, shaping the political landscape. It was also home to remarkable philosophers like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, whose ideas have profoundly influenced Western thought. At the heart of Athens was the Agora, a busy marketplace where citizens gathered for trade and discussion. Athens excelled militarily, particularly in naval power, during the Persian Wars, establishing its dominance in the Delian League. However, its imperial ambitions led to conflict, notably the Peloponnesian War against Sparta, weakening both cities significantly. Despite these challenges, Athens' legacy in democracy, philosophy, and the arts continues to resonate through the ages. Alexander the Great was a king of the ancient Greek kingdom of Macedon who lived from 356 to 323 BC. He is best known for creating one of the largest empires in history by the age of 30. Alexander was tutored by the philosopher Aristotle, which instilled in him a love for knowledge and culture. He ascended to the throne after the assassination of his father, King Philip II, and quickly set out to conquer territories across Asia Minor, Egypt, Persia, and into India. His military tactics and strategies are still studied today, and his ability to lead and inspire his troops was legendary. Alexander also spread Greek culture throughout his conquests, known as Hellenization, which greatly influenced the regions he controlled. His life came to an early end in Babylon at the age of 32, but his legacy endures, as he is remembered as one of history's greatest military leaders and strategists. The Maya civilization was one of the most advanced and influential societies in pre-Columbian America. It thrived in Mesoamerica, primarily in areas now known as Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador. With its peak occurring from 250 to 900 AD, the Maya made significant contributions in various fields, including architecture, mathematics, astronomy, and arts. Maya society was highly stratified and organized into a complex hierarchy. At the top were the elite class, including the king, usually referred to as Kuvul Ajah, or Holy Lord, who was believed to have divine authority. The nobility included priests, generals, and scribes. This class held vast land and wealth and played central roles in governance and religious ceremonies. The next tier consisted of skilled artisans, traders, and merchants. These individuals were crucial for the economy, creating goods such as pottery, textiles, and jewelry. They also engaged in extensive trade networks that facilitated cultural exchange. The majority of the population were farmers and laborers. Agricultural practices were vital for their survival, with maize as the staple crop. Commoners worked the land, producing food for themselves and contributing to the community's sustenance. At the bottom of the social pyramid were slaves, often acquired through warfare or debts. They performed labor-intensive tasks and did not have personal freedoms. Religion was a cornerstone of Maya life. They practiced polytheism, worshipping numerous gods related to nature, such as the sun, rain, and maize. Rituals and ceremonies played essential roles, many of which involved bloodletting and offerings to appease the gods and ensure agricultural success. The Maya also believed in an afterlife, which influenced their burial practices. The Maya developed one of the most sophisticated writing systems in the Americas, Mayan hieroglyphics. This system allowed them to record significant historical events, rituals, and genealogies. They also excelled in mathematics, having an understanding of the concept of zero and advanced calculating techniques. Maya astronomy was highly advanced. They built observatories to track celestial bodies and their movements. The Maya had two main calendar systems, the Solkin, a 260-day ritual calendar, and the Hab, a 365-day solar calendar. These calendars were used for planning agricultural activities, religious ceremonies, and festivals. Maya art is renowned for its intricacy and beauty. They created stunning pottery, sculptures, and murals that depicted their deities, rituals, and daily life. Architecturally, the Maya constructed impressive cities with grand temples, pyramids, and palaces, often aligned with astronomical events. The decline of the Maya civilization began around the 9th century, with various theories explaining this phenomenon, including environmental degradation, warfare, and socio-political upheaval. Despite the collapse of many city-states, the Maya people and their descendants continue to exist today, preserving their culture, traditions, and languages. In summary, the Maya civilization was characterized by its intricate social structure, advanced achievements in writing, mathematics, astronomy, and a deeply rooted religious belief system. Their legacy continues to influence the cultures of modern Mesoamerica. The study of Maya society offers valuable insights into human adaptation and achievement in historical contexts. Ivan the Terrible, born in 1530, was the first Tsar of Russia, ruling from 1547 until his death in 1584. Known for his intense and volatile personality, he earned the nickname Terrible, not just for his cruelty but also for his formidable reign. Ivan transformed Russia from a fragmented state into a powerful centralized nation. He implemented various reforms, including the establishment of a standing army and the creation of a new legal code. However, his reign was marked by paranoia and violent purges, particularly during the Oprichnina period, where he executed nobility he suspected of treason. Despite his brutality, Ivan left a lasting impact on Russian history, shaping the future of the Tsardom. His complex legacy continues to be explored in literature and art, making him one of the most intriguing figures of the 16th century. The Crusades were a series of religious wars fought between the 11th and 13th centuries, primarily between Christians and Muslims over the holy city of Jerusalem. Sparked by a call to arms from Pope Urban II in 1095, the First Crusade aimed to reclaim the Holy Land from Muslim control. Thousands of knights, soldiers, and peasants answered the call. The Crusaders initially enjoyed successes, capturing Jerusalem in 1099, yet their victories were often short-lived. The Second Crusade in 1147 ended in failure, while the Third Crusade, featuring iconic figures like Richard the Lionheart, sought to reclaim Jerusalem but ultimately led to a truce. The Crusades left lasting impacts on Christian and Muslim relations, trade, and cultural exchanges. Despite their religious motivations, the Crusades were marked by violence and complex political dynamics, shaping medieval history in profound ways. The Islamic Golden Age, spanning from the 8th to the 14th century, was a remarkable period of cultural, scientific, and intellectual flourishing in the Islamic world. Centered in cities like Baghdad, Cordoba, and Cairo, scholars from diverse backgrounds made significant contributions across various fields. In mathematics, the introduction of algebra and the concept of zero revolutionized numerical understanding. In medicine, figures like Avicenna wrote influential texts, laying the groundwork for modern healthcare. The era also saw advancements in astronomy, with accurate star maps and the development of the astrolabe, enhancing navigation. Literature and philosophy thrived as well, with notable works by thinkers like Al-Farabi and Al-Ghazali, bridging ancient Greek philosophy with Islamic thought. The Islamic Golden Age was characterized by a spirit of inquiry and cross-cultural exchange, profoundly influencing the Renaissance and leaving an enduring legacy on the world. The Hundred Years' War was a series of conflicts fought between England and France from 1337 to 1453, lasting 116 years. This struggle was primarily over territorial disputes and claims to the French throne. The war can be divided into several phases. Early on, the English, using longbows, achieved significant victories at battles such as Crécy in 1346 and Agincourt in 1415. The tide began to turn with the emergence of key French figures, most notably Joan of Arc, who inspired the French troops and led them to vital victories, including the Siege of Orléans in 1429. By the end of the war in 1453, England had lost most of its territories in France, solidifying French control and marking a significant shift in medieval power dynamics. The Hundred Years' War not only shaped the future of both nations but also heralded the end of feudalism and the rise of national identities. Joan of Arc, a peasant girl born around 1412 in France, became a pivotal figure during the Hundred Years' War between France and England. Claiming divine guidance, she led French troops to several important victories, most notably the Siege of Orléans in 1429. Her belief in a divine mission inspired her countrymen and turned the tide of the war in favor of France. Captured by the Burgundians in 1430, she was sold to the English and put on trial for heresy. Despite being only 19, Joan was burned at the stake on May 30, 1431. In 1920, she was canonized as a saint, symbolizing courage and faith. Joan of Arc's legacy as a national heroine continues to inspire many today. Custer's expedition, formerly known as the 1874 Black Hills Expedition, was led by Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer. It aimed to explore the Black Hills of South Dakota, a region sacred to the Lakota Sioux. The expedition was part of a U.S. military push to investigate reports of gold, which was discovered, igniting a gold rush. Custer's report on the area's resources prompted an influx of prospectors, leading to tensions with Native American tribes. This conflict ultimately contributed to the Great Sioux War of 1876. Custer's actions during the expedition significantly impacted U.S. Native relations and set the stage for his infamous last stand at the Battle of Little Bighorn. His expedition remains a significant event in American history, illustrating the complexities of westward expansion and its consequences on indigenous peoples. The Battle of Rorke's Drift took place from January 22 to 23, 1879, during the Anglo-Zulu War. This fierce confrontation unfolded in a small mission station in South Africa, where a mere 150 British soldiers defended their post against a force of over 4,000 Zulu warriors. Despite being heavily outnumbered, the British soldiers displayed remarkable courage and strategic resilience. They fortified their defenses, utilizing the buildings and makeshift barricades to withstand the onslaught. With rifles, ammunition, and their indomitable spirit, they repelled attack after attack. The battle ended with the Zulus eventually retreating, marking a significant yet costly British victory. 11 Victoria Crosses were awarded for bravery during this fierce engagement, which became emblematic of the courage and determination displayed in the face of overwhelming odds. Rorke's Drift remains a pivotal moment in military history. The Black Death, one of the deadliest pandemics in human history, struck Europe between 1347 and 1351, resulting in the death of an estimated 25 million people, about one-third of Europe's population. The disease, caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis, was transmitted via fleas that infested rats, which were common on ships and in urban areas. The outbreak began in Asia and rapidly spread across trade routes, reaching Italy, France, and eventually England. The symptoms included fever, chills, and the appearance of painful swellings called buboes, leading to its name. The rapid death toll caused widespread panic and significantly impacted society, leading to labor shortages and changes in economic structures. Additionally, the Black Death influenced art, literature, and religious thoughts, as people grappled with the fear of death and the search for meaning in a time of crisis. The pandemic left lasting legacies in both population dynamics and public health systems. The 30 Years' War, 1618 to 1648, was one of the most destructive conflicts in European history, primarily fought in the Holy Roman Empire. It began as a struggle between Catholic and Protestant states within the empire, triggered by the defenestration of Prague in 1618, when Protestant nobles revolted against Habsburg rule. Over time, the war escalated to involve multiple European powers, including France, Sweden, and Spain, as political and territorial ambitions intertwined with religious motives. The war devastated much of Germany, resulting in significant population loss and economic ruin. It ended with the Peace of Westphalia in 1648, which established a new political order based on the principles of sovereignty and religious tolerance. The 30 Years' War reshaped the political and religious landscape of Europe, leaving a lasting legacy. Trench warfare is a military strategy characterized by the use of deep trenches to protect soldiers from enemy fire, particularly prominent during World War I. This style of warfare emerged due to the development of powerful weapons, such as machine guns and artillery, which made traditional battlefield tactics ineffective. Soldiers on both sides dug extensive networks of trenches, leading to a static front where neither side could gain significant ground. Life in the trenches was harsh, with overcrowding, poor sanitation, and exposure to the elements leading to disease and psychological stress, known as trench fever and shell shock. Key battles, such as those at the Somme and Verdun, exemplified the brutality of trench warfare, resulting in massive casualties without substantial territorial gains. The stalemate ultimately contributed to the evolution of military tactics and technology, paving the way for future warfare strategies, including the use of tanks and aircraft. The Russian invasion of Ukraine from 1917 to 1921 was part of the broader turmoil following the Russian Revolution of 1917, which led to the establishment of the Soviet state. After the abdication of Tsar Nicholas II, Ukraine sought independence, declaring the Ukrainian People's Republic in 1917. However, the Bolsheviks, pursuing a vision of a unified Soviet republic, opposed Ukrainian sovereignty. In 1918, German forces briefly occupied Ukraine during World War I, but after Germany's defeat, the power vacuum allowed for further conflict. The Bolshevik Red Army fought against Ukrainian forces, including the National Army and other factions, resulting in a brutal and chaotic war. By 1921, the Soviet government had largely repressed Ukrainian independence movements, incorporating Ukraine into the Soviet Union. This period was marked by significant violence, atrocities, and a struggle for national identity. The Yugoslav wars were a series of conflicts that took place between 1991 and 2001 following the breakup of Yugoslavia, a multi-ethnic federation in Southeast Europe. The wars were marked by ethnic tensions, political instability, and the struggle for independence among its constituent republics, Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Kosovo. The conflicts began in Slovenia in 1991, quickly spreading to Croatia, where fighting broke out between Croatian forces and Serb paramilitaries. The most devastating phase occurred in Bosnia and Herzegovina from 1992 to 1995, characterized by ethnic cleansing, particularly against Bosniaks and Croats by Bosnian Serb forces. The war concluded with the Dayton Agreement in 1995. Kosovo's conflict erupted in the late 1990s, culminating in NATO's intervention in 1999. The wars resulted in significant loss of life, widespread displacement, and lasting ramifications. The Islamic Golden Age, spanning roughly from the 8th to the 14th century, saw significant advancements in science, philosophy, medicine, and the arts. Its decline is attributed to multiple factors. One major cause was the fragmentation of the Islamic world into competing states, leading to political instability. The Mongol invasions, particularly the sack of Baghdad in 1258, devastated key cultural and intellectual centers. Additionally, the rise of the Ottoman Empire marked a shift in power dynamics, overshadowing previous centers of learning. The decline of trade routes and economic issues, paired with growing conservatism and diminishing patronage for scholars and artists, further contributed to the stagnation of intellectual pursuits. By the late 15th century, these combined forces had effectively ended the period considered the Islamic Golden Age, leading to a significant reduction in the pioneering contributions that characterized this era. The Ottoman Empire was a vast and powerful state that lasted from 1299 to 1922. Founded by Osman I in northwestern Anatolia, it grew to encompass large parts of Southeast Europe, Western Asia, and North Africa. At its height in the 16th and 17th centuries under Suleiman the Magnificent, the empire became a center of trade, culture, and military power. The Ottomans were known for their administrative efficiency, legal reforms, and architectural achievements, including the famous Hagia Sophia and Topkapi Palace. The empire was a melting pot of cultures, religions, and languages, promoting coexistence among various ethnic groups. However, by the 19th century, it faced decline due to internal strife, nationalism, and external pressures from European powers. The empire officially dissolved after World War I, leading to the establishment of the Republic of Turkey in 1923, marking the end of over 6 centuries of Ottoman rule. Janissaries were elite infantry troops in the Ottoman Empire, established in the late 14th century. They were originally formed from Christian boys recruited through the Devshirme system, where boys were taken from their families, converted to Islam, and trained as soldiers. This practice not only provided the empire with loyal troops but also ensured a diverse military background. Equipped with advanced weaponry for their time, Janissaries played a crucial role in the expansion of the Ottoman Empire and were pivotal in many key battles. They were known for their strict discipline, military prowess, and distinctive uniforms. Over time, their power grew to the point where they became influential in politics. However, as the empire began to decline, corruption led to their downfall. The Janissary Corps was disbanded in 1826 during the Auspicious Incident, marking the end of their significant role in the Ottoman military structure. Knights were medieval warriors renowned for their chivalry, combat skills, and mounted prowess. Originating in the early Middle Ages, they often served noble lords as heavily armored cavalry. The Knights' code of chivalry emphasized virtues like bravery, honor, and protecting the weak. Training began in childhood, starting as a page, then becoming a squire, before achieving knighthood, often through a ceremonial dubbing. Knights fought primarily with swords, lances, and shields, participating in battles, tournaments, and jousts. They also played a crucial role in feudal society, granting military service in exchange for land or protection. Over time, the rise of infantry and changes in warfare diminished their military role, but the ideal of the knight persisted in literature and culture, symbolizing noble ideals and heroism. The invention of gunpowder dates back to the 9th century in China during the Tang dynasty. It was discovered by alchemists experimenting with various substances. The earliest known formula combined saltpeter, potassium nitrate, charcoal, and sulfur. Initially, gunpowder was used for fireworks and signals, but its explosive potential was recognized and adapted for military applications. By the 10th century, gunpowder weapons, like bombs and primitive firearms, began to appear in warfare. The technology spread to the Islamic world and Europe by the 13th century, significantly transforming combat. Gunpowder's introduction led to the decline of traditional armored knights and fortified castles, ushering in a new era of warfare that relied on cannons and firearms. Its invention played a crucial role in shaping military tactics and the course of history, marking the beginning of modern warfare. Samurai were the military nobility and officer caste of medieval and early modern Japan. Renowned for their martial prowess, discipline, and honor, they adhered to the code of Bushido, which emphasized loyalty, bravery, and ethical conduct. Originally landholding warriors serving local lords, daimyos, the samurai rose to prominence during the feudal period, particularly from the late 12th century until the 19th century. They were skilled in various forms of combat, including swordsmanship, archery, and horseback riding, and often participated in battles to protect their lord's interests. Samurai were also cultural figures, contributing to literature, art, and philosophy. The Meiji Restoration in 1868 marked the decline of their influence, as Japan transitioned to a modern state and abolished the class system. Today, samurai are celebrated in popular culture, symbolizing honor and discipline, and remain an enduring part of Japan's cultural heritage. The American War of Independence, 1775 to 1783, was a conflict between the 13 American colonies and Great Britain, driven by growing discontent over British taxation and lack of representation. Tensions escalated after events like the Boston Tea Party and the Intolerable Acts, leading to the formation of the First Continental Congress in 1774. The war began with the battles of Lexington and Concord in April 1775. The Continental Army, led by George Washington, fought against British forces. The war culminated in the British surrender at Yorktown in 1781. The Treaty of Paris was signed in 1783, officially recognizing American independence. The conflict laid the foundation for the United States' democratic principles and shaped its identity. The war's legacy includes inspiring future revolutions and the spread of Enlightenment ideas about liberty and self-governance. The American Civil War, 1861 to 1865, was a conflict between the Northern states, Union, and Southern states that seceded to form the Confederacy. Rooted in tensions over slavery, states' rights, and economic differences, the war began after the Confederate attack on Fort Sumter in April 1861. Key battles included Antietam, Gettysburg, and Sherman's March to the Sea. President Abraham Lincoln aimed to preserve the Union and issued the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, which declared freedom for enslaved people in Confederate territories. The war ultimately resulted in the defeat of the Confederacy, leading to significant loss of life and widespread destruction. It ended in April 1865 with General Robert E. Lee's surrender at Appomattox Courthouse. The war's aftermath included the Reconstruction era, which aimed to integrate formerly enslaved people and restore the Southern states into the Union. The American Civil War, 1861 to 1865, was a conflict between the Northern states, Union, and Southern states that seceded to form the Confederacy. Rooted in tensions over slavery, states' rights, and economic differences, the war began after the Confederate attack on Fort Sumter in April 1861. Key battles included Antietam, Gettysburg, and Sherman's March to the Sea. President Abraham Lincoln aimed to preserve the Union and issued the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, which declared freedom for enslaved people in Confederate territories. The war ultimately resulted in the defeat of the Confederacy, leading to significant loss of life and widespread destruction. It ended in April 1865 with General Robert E. Lee's surrender at Appomattox Courthouse. The war's aftermath included the Reconstruction era, which aimed to integrate formerly enslaved people and restore the Southern states into the Union. The American Civil War, 1861 to 1865, was a conflict between the Northern states, Union, and Southern states that seceded to form the Confederacy. Rooted in tensions over slavery, states' rights, and economic differences, the war began after the Confederate attack on Fort Sumter in April 1861. Key battles included Antietam, Gettysburg, and Sherman's March to the Sea. President Abraham Lincoln aimed to preserve the Union and issued the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, which declared freedom for enslaved people in Confederate territories. The war ultimately resulted in the defeat of the Confederacy, leading to significant loss of life and widespread destruction. It ended in April 1865 with General Robert E. Lee's surrender at Appomattox Courthouse. The war's aftermath included the Reconstruction era, which aimed to integrate formerly enslaved people and restore the Southern states into the Union. The American wars with Native Americans encompass a series of conflicts from the 17th century to the late 19th century, arising from European colonization and the westward expansion of settlers. Key conflicts include King Philip's War, 1675 to 1676, fueled by territorial disputes in New England, and the French and Indian War, 1754 to 1763, which reshaped power dynamics between British colonists and native tribes. In the 19th century, wars such as the Sioux Wars and the Nez Perce War, 1877, highlighted the struggle for land and autonomy. These conflicts often resulted in brutal confrontations, forced removals, and broken treaties, exemplified by events like the Trail of Tears, 1830s. The war significantly impacted native populations and ultimately led to the establishment of reservations, influencing the course of American history and U.S. native relations. The Battle of the Atlantic was a military campaign during World War II, lasting from 1939 until the defeat of Nazi Germany in 1945. It involved the struggle between the Allied forces, primarily Britain and later the United States, and Nazi Germany for control over the Atlantic Ocean. The Allies relied on maritime supply routes to transport troops, equipment, and resources, while Germany sought to disrupt these lines using U-boats and surface ships. Initially, German U-boats achieved significant success, sinking a large number of Allied merchant ships. However, as the war progressed, the Allies improved their naval tactics and developed advanced technologies like sonar and depth charges. By 1943, the Allies gained the upper hand, leading to a decline in U-boat effectiveness. Ultimately, the Battle of the Atlantic was crucial for securing supply lines vital for the Allied victory in Europe. The Electricity Wars, often referred to as the War of Currents, was a late 19th century conflict between competing electrical systems for power distribution. The main players were Thomas Edison, who championed direct current, DC, and Nikola Tesla and George Westinghouse, who advocated for alternating current, AC. Edison promoted DC, which was safer for small-scale use but had limitations over long distances. Tesla's AC system allowed for more efficient long-distance transmission, making it more suitable for widespread electrical distribution. The conflict intensified as Edison employed aggressive tactics, including public demonstrations showcasing the dangers of AC, like electrocutions of animals. The culmination of this war occurred with the establishment of AC as the standard for electrical power distribution, leading to the widespread electrification of homes and industries across the globe. The Battle for Troy, central to Greek mythology and famously depicted in Homer's Iliad, concerns the decade-long Trojan War fought between the Greeks, Achaeans, and the city of Troy. The conflict began when Paris, a Trojan prince, abducted Helen, the wife of Spartan king Menelaus. Menelaus rallied a coalition of Greek armies to besiege Troy in her honor. The war featured numerous legendary heroes, including Achilles, Hector, and Odysseus. Notable events included Achilles' wrath after the death of his friend Patroclus and the duel between Achilles and Hector. The conflict reached a turning point with the cunning Greek strategy involving the Trojan horse, a deceptive ploy that allowed Greek soldiers to infiltrate Troy. After a 10-year siege, the Greeks finally captured the city, leading to its destruction. The Trojan War symbolizes themes of love, honor, and fate, leaving a lasting impact on Western literature and storytelling. Ironclads were revolutionary warships used during the American Civil War, notable for their iron or steel armor plating, which made them far more resilient than traditional wooden vessels. The most famous clash occurred between the USS Monitor and the CSS Virginia, formerly the USS Merrimack, in 1862. The battle, fought at Hampton Roads, Virginia, marked the first meeting of ironclad ships in warfare. The USS Monitor, designed by John Erickson, was a rotating turret design, while the CSS Virginia was an armored ram constructed from the wreck of a scuttled ship. Their encounter ended in a stalemate but showcased the effectiveness of ironclad ships and revolutionized naval warfare. The use of ironclads rendered wooden warships obsolete and led to further developments in naval technology, influencing military strategy and ship design for years to come. This evolution symbolized the technological advancements that characterized the Civil War era. The development of submarines began in the early 17th century, with designs like Cornelius Drebbel's rudimentary vessel, which could dive and surface. In the 19th century, innovations led to more sophisticated designs. The American Civil War saw the Confederate submarine H.L. Hunley becoming the first to sink an enemy ship. The 20th century marked significant advancements, especially during World War I and World War II, with the development of diesel-electric submarines like the German U-boat. Post-war, nuclear submarines revolutionized naval warfare. The USS Nautilus, launched in 1954, was the first nuclear-powered submarine, allowing for longer deployments and reduced need for surface refueling. Today, submarines incorporate advanced technologies like stealth capabilities, missile systems, and autonomous operations, playing critical roles in modern naval strategy and defense. Flamethrowers have a history dating back to ancient warfare, with the Greeks using simple versions in the 5th century BC, while the Byzantine Empire later developed more sophisticated models. The modern flamethrower emerged during World War I, where it was used by various armies to clear trenches and bunkers. The German army first deployed it in 1915, followed by Allied forces. World War II saw significant advancements, with flamethrowers becoming crucial in close combat, especially in the Pacific theater. They were commonly used by the U.S. Marines against entrenched Japanese positions. Post-war, their use declined due to moral concerns and the rise of more effective weaponry. Despite this, flamethrowers remain in use today for military training, firefighting, and agricultural purposes. Their controversial nature continues to spark debate about their ethical implications in warfare. Did you know that the Vikings are believed to have discovered North America well before Christopher Columbus's arrival in 1492? Around the year 1000 AD, Norse explorer Leif Erikson is credited with reaching a place he called Vinland, which is widely thought to be located in present-day Newfoundland, Canada. Archaeological evidence at Lonceau Meadows supports this claim, showing that Vikings established a settlement there. These explorations occurred as part of their broader voyages across the North Atlantic, reaching various locations in Greenland and beyond. While they may not have significantly impacted the indigenous peoples of North America at the time, the Viking presence is a testament to their remarkable seafaring skills and explorative spirit. Valhalla, in Norse mythology, is the Hall of the Slain, overseen by the god Odin. It is a majestic place located in Asgard, where warriors who died bravely in battle, known as Einherjar, are brought by the Valkyries, warrior maidens serving Odin. These heroes reside in Valhalla, feasting and preparing for Ragnarok, the end of the world. They are said to engage in daily battles, only to be resurrected each evening to enjoy feasting on roasted boar and drinking mead. Valhalla symbolizes honor, bravery, and the warrior spirit, representing an afterlife rewarded for valor in combat. It reflects the Norse value of courage and the belief in fate, where one's destiny is a significant part of life and death.